Hey YouTubers, what is going on? Thank you for stopping by. I hope you're doing well. My name is JC and this is the Cuban Redneck DIY channel where we do cooking and grilling videos on Tuesdays and DIY stuff of all types on Fridays. Today we're back at the garage where we're going to be making some tools that will allow us to efficiently build DIY speaker boxes, subwoofer enclosures and things of that nature. And although I'm going to be focusing or I'm going to present these tools as something to build speakers with, really they have a lot of uses around the shop. If you're doing woodworking, for any type of box, making drawers and things of that nature. However, if you're not into woodworking or speaker building, that's not a problem. Do me a favor, click on the title of the channel where you'll find a dedicated playlist to every topic that we cover. One thing you're not going to find in this channel is misleading thumbnails and or titles. In the simple little video that I did for the Parts Express C-Note, there was a lot of comments about just do away with the the half-inch enclosure and just build one from scratch. Yeah, but a lot of people just don't have that capability. However, with just some basic tools, when I mean basic tool, I'm talking about a circular saw and a router. We can build some very decent speakers, and this is what this video is all about. So I hope you stay tuned. To make this, I'm going to be using a scrap wood, basically cutoffs. There are no particular dimensional requirements for these, except that I believe they should be at least 24 inches long so that you can work with 2x4 sheets. If you don't do a lot of woodworking, you don't have a scrap wood, consider buying a 1x2 front strip, but do keep an eye on the edges. You want these edges to be nice and square and free of defects. For the backboard, I'm going to be using a combination of 1/4 inch plywood and some 1/2 inch MDF. But if you need to buy wood, I strongly recommend 1/4 inch MDF or perhaps some hardboard. The first jig we're going to make, or tool, is called a straight edge guide. And basically what it does, it allows us to draw a line on any piece of wood, and it allows us to cut on that line perfectly every time that we do a cut. So to do that, we need a spacer of any type, any kind of straight edge that is wider than the distance from the edge of our saw to the blade. I'm going to put this at the edge of our material, fold it in place. Actually, I should use the smaller one for the end. I'll put that there. Alright, we're going to apply some wood to our material, and it's important that we don't go crazy with the wood, with the amount of glue, but that we cover the entire surface, because we need a good flat bonding to our surface. So move a little bit more here. I normally don't bother with this. I let the glue ooze out, but in this particular instance, the 1/4 inch backboard, it's a little bit on the weak side, so we are going to do our best to help it out. Okay, so we're going to put that there. I'm going to grab one clamp. Oops. See, don't walk away. Doesn't really matter if it's, if it moves a little bit back and forth. We're going to correct that cut in a second. So that's good right there. We're going to take our drill, and we're going to make some pilot holes straight down. Make sure we're not on top of the bench. In the middle. Okay, put this aside, with making sure this thing's clamped. I'm going to go ahead and remove this and flip our material. go ahead and clamp it again. I need to make it, over the top. We just need to get to the bottom of this because we are going to countersink that. And we're going to take some small screws. Hold it in place just so that the glue sets. Once the glue sets, we can actually take them out. On the small pieces, the ones that I use 1/4 inch. If you use 1/4 inch material, this is I recommend it doing like this. Also important that you drive the screws deep enough to where they're flush. Right. Now we're going to put this thing aside. I'm going to flip it back up. I'm going to clean any glue that we have. Okay. With our piece clean, I'm going to give it a quick sanding. Just want to kill any roughness that it has. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a battery. I'm going to go ahead and put a battery on the saw, run it along the edge. Sanding block. Okay, now we're going to trim the background. You can trim it flush. I like to leave a secondary piece on the back, just as a spare in case I nick it or something like that. Okay, so how do we use this? Basically, let's just say that we needed to take, I don't know, 1/4 inch off of this, whatever dimension might be, okay? What you do is you put this over an edge, put the tool on top, line it with your line, whatever, it doesn't have to be squares, whatever you mark the line. Grab a couple of clamps, put the sucker that side of the mark. Get a second clamp. Make sure this is aligned. Okay, so you see we're showing the edge right there. And we'll go ahead and clamp that. We'll take our saw, set it up to 3/4 inch, and you can just run along the guide. It's going to give you a flush cut wherever you put the tool at against any line. Not only that, but also having a surface prevents a lot of breakout when you cut in plywood and things like that. Let's build the other one. With this jig, we're going to be able to make not only rabbets, which is an edge that is missing on a piece of wood, but also dados, which is like a groove on a piece of wood where you can combine or connect a second one. That makes for a very strong joint, and when you're making speakers out of MDF, that is extremely important. Now, something to consider, if you don't already know, is that there are two types of flute bits on the market. Ones are what is called plywood bits, which are slightly on the size, and then there's true size bits. I hope if you build in speakers, you are considering making them out of MDF. And here's the difference between the two. This is 1/2 inch plywood, this is 1/2 inch MDF. If we measure this measures 500 thousandths on the dot. This one is 480, so it's 20 thousandths smaller. If you were to make a dado with a 1/2 inch bit for plywood, it's going to be loose. You could use glue and stuff like that, but it is best if you use the proper bit. We're going to be making 3 separate jigs for the router. One is going to be for 1/4 inch, one for 1/2 inch, and one for 3/4. To determine how wide our pieces have to be, in other words, this width right here, what you need to do is basically measure from the center of the shaft of your particular router to the edge of your faceplate. This particular one is 1 3/4. Then you need to multiply that by 2, which is going to be 3.5, and add whatever spacer it is that you add. And you could, it could be 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever it is, really doesn't matter. So we got 1/2 plus 3 3/4. So it's basically this thing. So it's 3.5 plus 1/2. It's going to be 5 inches wide. So let's go ahead and mark 5 pieces. I'm going to give it a little bit big. I'm probably going to make it like 5 1/8. And then we're going to go ahead and cut. With the exception of the last step, this is pretty much the same thing we already did. So if you don't mind, I am not going to bore you with the details. Just time lapse this part, and we'll come back to the end to finish it up. Okay, so the 3 pieces are finished. I give them a quick sanding. Now all we need to do is label them. So this one is going to be 1/4 plywood. This one's going to be 1/4 MDF. This is going to be, oops, that's 1/4. This one is going to be 1/2 ply. This is going to be 1/2 MDF. This one's going to be 3/4 ply and 3/4 MDF. All there is to do is to load the proper bit onto the router and run it against the edge for each of the dimensions. And that's pretty much it. May require a little bit more sanding, and if you have hard paste wax like yellow wax, a little bit of waxing will do it good and allow the router to flow by it a little bit simpler, but it's not 100% a requirement. With that said, this is MDF, so we're gonna go ahead and take it outside to do this because as you all know, MDF is a little bit on the messy side. As far as how it works, it's pretty much the same as the last one. You just lay it over, clamp it down over the line where you want to make your dado or rabbet, set the depth of the cutting bit, and go for it. Alright guys, so it's the end of the day. I got all my jigs done, but I wanted to do a little segment to clarify something, because I know that people are going to say, oh well, if you use the router like that, it's really tipsy and you don't make a square cut. The same thing goes for the saw. I don't have the right thickness of aluminum, that's why I did not add it, but I will be adding something that I know, or I grew up knowing, as what is called a shoe. So that's basically a spacer on the outer edge that when you put the router against the piece, it basically it maintains it level. The same thing goes for the saw. Basically, there's a hole in there already. Just going to make a second one, tap it, or use a self tapper, and mount a little rail where the outside of the saw can ride. And that's it. This one needs to be a 1/4 inch. This one needs to be a 1/2 inch. This is not the type of aluminum that you can go to Home Depot and Lowe's and buy, but I know where to get it. And if you cannot get aluminum, consider nylon, like a cutting board or something like that, and that will do. Just wanted to clarify that, because I know that the comments are going to rain and say, oh, that's not going to be straight. Whatever. Know that if you add a shoe to the outside of both the saw and the router, you're good to go. I hope that we get all our speakers and crossover parts, and we can go ahead and build a speaker next week. I'll see you next week.